In this video, we're going to look at the core themes of conservatism, in particular tradition, human imperfection, organic society, hierarchy and authority, and property. Conservatism is a pre-Enlightenment ideology. So unlike liberals who believe in rationalism, conservatives believe in human imperfection. Conservatives take a very pessimistic view of human nature. Sullivan described conservatism itself as a philosophy of human imperfection, and conservatism disagrees with other ideologies who believe that humans are naturally good or can be somehow made good. Firstly, humans are seen to be psychologically limited. We fear isolation and instability. We are drawn to the safe and the familiar, stability and predictability. Drawing on Hobbes, we are prepared to sacrifice liberty for order. Secondly, we are morally imperfect, and in some respects this dates back to the Bible and the sense of original sin. But we are innately selfish and greedy. For example, crime is not a product of a person's social circumstances, but of human instincts. For conservatives, the role of law, unlike for liberals, is not to uphold liberty, but to preserve order. Thirdly, we are intellectually limited. The world is simply too complicated for human reason to grasp fully. The political world is described by Oakeshott as boundless and bottomless, and therefore we should not put our faith in abstract ideas and systems, but in tradition and experience, adopting a cautious, pragmatic approach to the world. However, there are some tensions within conservatism overall over support for tradition and pragmatism as a result of the rise of the neoliberal new right, who have a classical liberal rational approach to politics and have a much more radical approach as well. A word that is not part of the core themes but that crops up again and again is this idea of pragmatism. If human behavior is unpredictable and the world is not subject to rationalism, how do you decide what to do, what actions to take? Well, rather than relying on abstract ideas, because reason is bound to fail us, actions should be based on pragmatism. And a definition of pragmatism is behavior that is shaped in accordance with practical circumstances and goals rather than abstract theoretical principles. So pragmatism is a good guide to actions, and also tradition also provides a sure guide to actions for imperfect human reason, which leads us on to the second core theme, that of tradition. Tradition, as a definition, entails the values, practices and institutions that have endured through time and that have passed down from one generation to the next. In his reflections on the revolution in France, Burke argued that society was a partnership between those who are living, those who are dead, and those who are yet to be born. For Chesterton, tradition means giving votes to the most obscure of all classes, our ancestors, and in a striking phrase he called it the democracy of the dead. For Burke and others, tradition represents the accumulated wisdom of the past, encompassing practices and institutions that have been tested by time in an almost Darwinian sense of the best or most valuable surviving. Tradition also provides us imperfect humans with a sense of belonging and rootedness, generates a sense of social cohesion. This is particularly important because, of course, we are psychologically flawed and insecure and seek comfort in the familiar. Tradition, as mentioned before, also provides the surest guide to actions. Conservatives believing in human imperfection, and if we're intellectually flawed, reason is destined to fail us, so therefore tradition can provide a good source to action. For some conservatives, although this argument is less used in modern times, tradition also represents the work of God, and as Burke says, society is shaped by the law of our Creator and should not be challenged by humans. The third core theme is that of the organic society. Liberals and socialists have a very mechanistic view of society, seeing it as constructed by rational individuals for their own ends, something that can be adjusted or tampered with. Conservatives, however, have traditionally thought of society as a living organism, evolved and shaped by natural necessity rather than by human factors. For example, the family was not brought into being by any abstract theory, but through natural evolution and impulses. Within this living organism, all the parts work together. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and the whole is sustained by a fragile set of relationships amongst the parts. One implication of this organic society is that any change should be slow and or gradual, protect the natural balance of the relationships. Society, building on the idea of tradition, has been shaped by forces beyond human control and understanding, and its structures and institutions should not be tampered with. Particular institutions are viewed from a functionalist perspective, that they've been developed and survive for a reason, that they contribute to the maintenance of the larger whole. By their very existence, they are worthwhile and desirable. They have stood the test of time. Unlike classical liberals who believe in negative freedom, conservatives feel that too much freedom is a bad thing. We would suffer from anomie, from isolation, from ruthlessness, and thus we seek security as part of a social group within society. Freedom for conservatives, in a very striking difference to liberals, is a willing acceptance of social obligations and ties. While the belief in organic society also implies a form of natural hierarchy, which we'll go on to in the next core theme, the interdependence of all the parts in an organic society means that there are duties and obligations attached to those who are better off, particularly the duty to look after those who are less well off. Sometimes this is referred to as noblesse oblige, or the price of privilege. To sum up the organic society is a complex and fragile web of social relationships in which the whole is more than simply the sum of the parts. The component parts work together to support each other. There's an interdependence. It's been shaped over a long period by natural necessity, not by natural human designs. The implications or the significance of this idea of an organic society for conservatives are: 1, that established institutions, values and culture should always be supported. Society is not a mechanism to be tampered with, and radical change should be resisted. If change is necessary, any change should be slow and gradual, not to upset the fragile relationship or balance, and to maintain social discipline. The organic society is hierarchical, but this provides security and freedom for individuals who know their place within organic society. And finally, although society is hierarchical, this brings with it duties and obligations, noblesse oblige, very much associated with the paternalistic or one nation tradition of conservatives. The fourth core theme leads on to is that of hierarchy and authority. For liberals, society is hierarchical on the left, but this hierarchy, which is also unequal, is the result of a meritocracy. It's a meritocratic structure where a social position is based on talent and effort. Positions may change. It's a very mobile society. Conservatives have a similar structure of society in mind, but whereas this structure, based on the traditional conservative view, this hierarchy is a natural hierarchy based on the organic view of society. Within this hierarchy, there is a natural aristocracy with unequal distribution of duties and responsibilities. Those at the top, if you're fortunate enough to be born into this natural aristocracy, have duties and responsibilities to look after those less well off. In such a society, positions are static, or only subject to slow or gradual change. Hierarchy is often linked with authority. Authority, a definition, the right to exercise power and influence others. Hierarchy, a gradation in social positions and status. Conservatives believe that this natural hierarchy emerges from an organic society. Thus, inequality is simply natural. But authority within this structure is beneficial because, back to our human imperfection again, we are limited psychologically, intellectually and morally. Authority offers us guidance and support. People know their place, and this helps counter ruthlessness and anomie. Authority is also a source of stability. helps maintain and keep a well-ordered society. However, although authority is granted unequally, it should be exercised in a paternal fashion, as natural inequality also implies unequal duties and responsibilities, as those fortunate enough to be bestowed with high position have a duty to look after the welfare of those less well off, known as the price of privilege. The final core theme is that of property, and a quotation from von Hayek, who we'll come across later on when we're looking at the New Right. Hayek says the system of private property is the most important guarantee of freedom, not only for those who own property, but scarcely less for those who do not. Property has a number of important benefits to society. First of all, harking back again to human imperfection for psychologically imperfect humans, property provides a sense of security, a source of stability. It also provides an incentive for thrift, to be wise with money, and it's also something to fall back on when times get hard. Property also promotes important social and small c conservative values, respect for the property of others and respect for law and order, again harking back to the conservative theme of authority. And property can also act as an extension of an individual's personality and character. Again, there are tensions between different strands of conservatives over the idea of property. For the New Right neoliberals, as we'll see, they believe that property is earned. It's earned on merit, and individuals have an absolute right to do with their property as they choose, to buy or sell or slice up or whatever. Traditional conservatives, however, argue that property ownership and rights are not merely the creation of the present owners of generation, but ownership of property entails obligations to future generations. Again, thinking back to Burke's quote about society and also Chesterton's. So they are the 5 core themes of conservatism: human imperfection, tradition, hierarchy and authority, organic society and property.